I'm Chris from Play Comics, a show where we look at video games based on comic properties and how well they stick to that source material, a part of the Gonna Geek Network, just like the show you're checking out now. Shows on the network are individually owned, and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other astonishingly geeky shows at GonnaGeekNetwork.com.
Stand by for a brand new episode of All Things Good and Nerdy.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to episode 526 of the All Things Good and Nerdy podcast. We're recording this live on Thursday afternoon, June 22nd, 2023. We have officially passed the halfway mark of the year, and yay, I guess yay. I'm Chris. Normally I would have two folks join me. Today I've only got one. Mr. Willie has got prior commitments, but that's okay. We got Mr. Anthony Bachman here.
Halfway down.
Are we about
The
to
only thing I
break?
can think of that had halfway.
I was trying to figure out if we're about to break into some like ad hoc country music song, and I was going to be really screwed if that was the case.
It is a country music song, but now I honestly I'm not even sure who sings that one
I don't do
because I
country.
can't think of the rest of it. It might be a Travis Tritt song.
It's all Greek to me, man.
Might be Brooks and Dunn. I like a lot of country. I'm for those that don't know, 3 weeks ago now, everything post wedding honeymoon was a blur. But we came back, and 1 week later we had a Luke Combs concert here at the stupid Blue Tier Stadium in Boise, and so I have seen Luke Combs live now. My last concert is no longer Powerman 5000 at the Knitting Factory. My last concert is Luke Combs, and it was fucking awesome. That man puts on a show.
That is what I've heard before. I haven't seen it myself because, don't do Disney stuff. Not Disney, country music stuff very often. I don't know why. I was looking at Twitter because I saw breaking news and it said Disney in the tweet. And then my brain just like...
Just cross-pollinated. I don't do country Disney. Damn it. Yeah. No country Disney.
All right, so what caused this random aside right now is, for those that are unaware, the court case for the injunction behind Microsoft acquiring Activision is taking place right now, where the FTC is pushing their case. So I was looking at some live tweets that came out, and we actually got some news about the upcoming Indiana Jones game. Some confirmation that came out of FTC lawyer questioning, where they were talking to Pete Hines of Bethesda, that confirmed that Indiana Jones, the game, originally had a deal with Disney for multiple consoles. However, the deal was amended post-acquisition of Bethesda to be Xbox only. So it'll be Xbox PC, not Xbox PlayStation PC.
I mean, that makes sense.
Yes.
You buy the studio.
I'm sure this will be seen as some kind of smoking gun to those that like console warfare, which will be interesting. And this is a nice little tease for my news story later, because I also am taking my news out of some of the stuff that's coming out of the FTC injunction talk, because we've also had, what was it, last week was when most of the court case was going on. There was the CMA, and I can't remember what that is in England, that was also trying to stop the acquisition, where there were court cases going on. So there's been all sorts of interesting little dirt and interesting things coming out. And that means some of the stuff that came out today was Microsoft's projections for how they'd get Call of Duty to work on the Nintendo Switch. Some of their stuff for the analysis of the Switch compared to other consoles, where they said the current Xbox generation and PlayStation generation has about 9 times the performance of the Nintendo Switch in their estimates. So there's some pretty interesting stuff that's been coming out of the court cases. And then there's some other stuff that makes you go, you dirty sons of bitches. And we'll get to that when we get to the news of the week. That's a tease right there. That's a tease.
News of the week is all about dirty son of bitches.
Dirty son of bitches.
The world full of dirty son of bitches.
Look, I fully admit I'm primarily an Xbox console gamer. So I do kind of have a vested interest in the Activision Blizzard thing going through, because then I don't have to pay money to play Diablo 4. It's part of my Game Pass subscription. But
there you go.
I have a hard time, based off the arguments they're making, seeing how it shouldn't go through without it becoming political. And that's not to say it won't become political, because the tone and tenor of the FTC in the United States and the CMA in England changes depending on who is running the government at a given time. So who knows anymore what things are going to be. But it's fascinating. There's a few interesting folks on Twitter that kind of have been doing live breakdowns throughout the day of stuff that's been coming out about the FTC injunction. I'm fascinated by it. But yeah, Indiana Jones will be Xbox and PC only, which I don't think anyone's surprised to hear.
Do we know if it's supposed to be like a sandbox or an open world game?
That hasn't really shown us much more than an initial trailer from what I remember. I would expect it to be kind of like Uncharted-esque is my thoughts. I mean, that's the model you'd want to follow. And
I guess it makes sense, yeah.
They kind of compared it to the Indiana Jones game that came out, God, what was it, on the original Xbox? There was an Indiana Jones game that came out.
In 1496?
I mean, it's a really good game. I think I picked it up on sale for like $2 to play again at a later time digitally. I just haven't gone back and replayed it yet because the problem is with some of these games that you really think back on fondly is when you start to go and replay them, you're like, oh yeah, they were awesome in 2005.
Exactly.
In 2023,
I was just thinking about it. I was trying to remember. I was like, wait, no, I played Indiana Jones on Xbox. No, I did not. What I had was an Xbox 360 with Indiana Jones, Lego, and Kung Fu Panda. That was the version of the Xbox 360 I had. So I have played an Indiana Jones game on Xbox, but it was the Lego one.
Is fun.
It was solid. That was a fun game. I remember, using the crack of the whip on stuff, like grabbing, like shooting across, like swinging across chasms and stuff. Then again, I mean, it's just all the Lego games are great. That new one that they did the update on the Star Wars one, where I'm still a little like, I haven't gone back to it since I bought it, and I played through like the first like 4 levels or something. It's just not as, it wasn't as fun as like the first when they did the trilogy of the prequels. Those Star Wars games were just
Saga one.
Yeah, I got the full one on it, and it's just, I don't know, some of the way they changed the camera views and stuff. It's not as fun.
They put it on Game Pass. I haven't had a chance to play it yet. I've got it downloaded.
I started
I just haven't started it yet because generally, if you don't have a bunch of other stuff to play, the Lego games are something fun you can dip into, and it doesn't really matter if you play for 2 hours and don't pick up the game for like another 2 months or something after that, because you know the story, and the gameplay of a Lego Star Wars game isn't something you can get rusty on. It's not like playing Jedi Survivor or Fallen Order, where like if you stop playing for a while, you lose all of your timing for parrying hits and knowing the right way to sneak through and attack people properly. There's muscle
Ghost
memory.
Of Tsushima or God of War. Yeah, you got to know what button does what, or you're about to get murdered.
Yeah. Or Spider-Man.
Lego's like jump, hit, cool.
Use force, double jump.
It's simple, easy to remember. Yeah, easy to pick up and just play for a little bit. Like Spider-Man. Yeah, I just replayed through Miles again. Forgot how damn well written that ending is. Freaking Insomniac trying to make me cry.
I haven't played that one yet, the Miles Morales one, but I intend to at some point in time.
I mean, because it is a much shorter game. Like people said, it almost could have been a DLC to Amazing Spider-Man. It's true. It could have been
that they turned into its own game.
Yeah, a large DLC, but they turned into a separate game and made some great adjustments, made some cool updates visually. But that Amazing Spider-Man game. Like spoilers for the end of a game that's 10 years old now. Like when
it's that old, but 4 or 5.
It's close. But yeah, when May says to take off your mask, and you're like, like it's just heartbreaking. And Miles, like if that's 100% heartbreaking, Miles is like a 92%. Like it's almost as heartbreaking at the end of Miles. It's like, damn, that was good. And it is a much shorter game. And they tell a story that is that heart wrenching in like a third of the time. The writers at Insomniac that make these games are so good. I am so excited for Amazing Spider-Man 2 to have a game where you switch back and forth between the two, between Peter and Miles, and to where they've offset Miles' electric powers by giving Peter the symbiote. Fuck yes! Like I don't care about anything else in that game. It looks so good.
I'm just really bummed that it seems like this generation with PS5 is that Sony's like, yeah, we'll do bundles, but they're not going to be any like different looking PlayStations for the bundles.
Mm-hmm.
It's you can just buy the game with the digital or the console with the digital copy, because I was really holding out for. I think they could do a really cool looking custom edition PS5, similar to what they did with the PS4 Pro. But it doesn't look like they're going to be doing that for the PlayStation 5 this time around. Or if they are, it hasn't leaked. I mean, the game comes out in October, so we've got 4 months.
Yeah.
You would think that would have leaked by now that they were going to do that, but who knows?
Yeah.
So
and they are, because they're on the store now.
Yeah.
The Spider-Man Collector's Edition was like an extra $10, I think, for the pre-order.
So.
Are both in the store now.
Part of me is also holding out to see whether they're going to decide to put it on PC at a later date too, like they did the original Spider-Man, because it is on PC now and runs really well. Because if it is, then it might make more sense for me not necessarily to have all 3 of the current consoles in my house, but put that money into a computer that would be have the horsepower to play video games, but also probably not be a 10-year-old rig that I'm currently using for podcasting that sometimes has issues of its own. So there's part of me that's kind of weighing those odds right now to be like, okay, when the new Spider-Man comes out, are they going to say anything about when a PC release might be?
Well, I mean, I think it'll do with how many do we know, like the number of PC copies that have sold since that game was released? Because is it on Steam
It's on
or is
Steam.
it just it's on Steam? So I mean, yeah, so that means they're getting good tracking. They have all the numbers.
This is one that runs well on a Steam Deck too. That's what's kind of impressive about it, is that the Spider-Man game runs on Steam Deck. They've optimized it for that.
Yeah, see, and I'm betting because I remember seeing like all the mods that were done of it. It was awesome. People like swinging through the sky as Kingpin and stuff. And
see, and that's why I want to go PC if they do the next one on PC, is because the mod community is freaking cool. Some of the stuff they've done for it.
Yeah, someone did a Stan Lee one.
Yeah.
Like I almost want to buy it on PC just to get the Stan Lee mod and play as Stan Lee. Like that's so awesome. But I mean, I'm betting, if anything, Insomniac's just looking at the numbers that they sold on Steam and are weighing like how long do we wait to release it, and then how many copies are we going to be able to sell on Steam if we wait as long as we did last time. Because I mean, it was years and years, right, between the release and then when it came out on Steam.
So here is what I'm seeing just with a quick Google search, is that the PC release came out August 2022, and this article that came out May 24th, so about a month ago today, says that Spider-Man had sold 1.5 million copies on PC in that time.
Yeah, that's not bad numbers.
PC.
Yeah.
Over $67.5 million revenue is what they say.
And you're pulling $60 million in, positive money after a game's been out on a console for multiple years. That's not bad.
Yeah, this is coming from VG charts is where I found it.
That might make them put out a Steam version of Amazing Spider-Man 2 like 6 months after the launch, depending on what the Sony contract is, or maybe only a year this time. I'll bet you it comes out faster. Because if they've already got it in place, they've already got a deal with Steam now. They've put Amazing Spider-Man on there.
It depends on how they have to change the game to optimize for PC versus for PlayStation. Yeah. Now, we're in a different world now. It's not like we're back in the day of the PS3 where it was its own custom processor architecture and things like that. Is basically the Xboxes and the PlayStation 5s are just gaming PCs with 4-year-old hardware at this point in time.
With a different shell on them.
So, in theory, they should be able to do a PC port for it. And they have been putting a bunch of PlayStation or Sony games out on PC, because Last of Us was put out on PC, although I guess the port was really bad until at least a few patches went out. I'm not sure how it is now, because I don't PC game, because like I mentioned, my computer's old and my laptop is a MacBook, so you don't really game on MacBooks.
No, not unless you're playing like SimCity.
Yeah, although they do have a new tool that's come out that's supposed to help make it easier to convert a bunch of Windows games and whatnot to working on the Mac silicon, which could be interesting. People have gotten Cyberpunk, for instance, running on Mac hardware using this emulation tool, which is kind of neat. And Cyberpunk is pretty hefty in its system requirements.
I mean, yeah, that game has a lot going on.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know what I'm doing when it comes to if I'm buying another PlayStation or not, because I'd been kicking it around, but I've also come to the realization of I bought my PlayStation to play Spider-Man. I played a crap load of Spider-Man. I played a few other games. Then I primarily shifted back to my Xbox and started using my Switch as the secondary thing. So like my PlayStation gets turned on like once every couple of months because I want to try something out. So I don't know that it really makes sense for me to buy both a PlayStation and an Xbox Series X. I mean, I really want to play Spider-Man, but is it fiscally responsible for me to spend about $600 to do that?
Yeah, I keep looking at the idea. It's like, well, I got the PlayStation 4 limited edition Star Wars one is now out in the living room, because basically I took the PS4, moved it upstairs as the DVD player now in our bedroom, give the Star Wars edition, which was the limited edition PS4 Pro, to Jana out in the living room, and then I've got the PS5 in the den because I'm greedy. But it's like, well, if we're going to spend like $1,000 to put a new TV out there,
I find it effective.
Shouldn't I just get another PS5 as well and put that in the living room?
Well, I mean, there's something to be said for it. I mean, and I don't think we're going to have prices dropping anytime soon for any of that hardware. In fact, there was just a release that I saw on The Verge that was pretty much anywhere that's outside of the continental United States, the Series X is getting a price increase, similar to what Sony did with the PlayStation 5. So don't expect any price cuts anytime soon. But there's always, of course, always runs risk. There's always the secondary market, which is, hey, this dude's got a used PlayStation 5. He's going to sell a friend of yours, someone you can trust, so you can assume it's not console banned or stuff like that. There could be an opportunity that arises that way. I have a hard time, especially with these current devices and how hot they run and how complex they are, getting something that wouldn't give me at least the manufacturer's warranty.
Yeah, it does make it tough. It's just, it's crazy too, because I'll bet we're probably not going to see anything till mid-November, and we'll see a $50 decrease for Christmas sales. Yeah, that's what we'll get.
Or they'll do like a bundle with 2 games in it or something like that and keep it regular price.
Yeah, for Black Friday. And then, like you said, it'll be the digital bundle. So not only do you not get the cool console cover like you should get, like your awesome PS4 Spider-Man version, but you don't even actually get the game on your console when you get it. You just get a code to download the game. That's what bugged me. It's just put it on there. Just download the main file. Save me 40 gig of downloading over my internet. Come on.
Right.
I paid the extra money. Just put it on the damn hard drive. I know I'm going to have to download a patch. I have to download DLC, whatever. But if I buy the Game of War edition of a PS5, and when I pull it out of the box, there's literally nothing on that PS5 that says, shows, or makes it a Game of War edition or God of War edition.
Exactly.
It's just a PS5 and a little piece of paper. You got to scratch the lottery crap off to get the code. It's are you kidding me? That's not a bundle.
Exactly.
All you did was sell me a piece of paper that gives me a $60 game. All right, you fuckers.
You're not wrong. And I sort of get why they would do that, though, because the consoles have been hard to find, and they're now fairly readily available. And they can keep selling them without having to incentivize people hey, cool, here, get your fancy Spider-Man version. It's, well, if you want Spider-Man or you've been thinking about dipping your toe in, we'll do a bundle where you save $10 if you buy the bundle that comes with Spider-Man in it. That's effectively what it is, I think, because the God of War bundle was $560, something like that, regular retail, and I think God of War is a $70 game.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you save $10.
And by the time Amazing Spider-Man 2 is coming out, it's okay, we'll knock $10 off the price of the regular one. We'll give you a digital copy of a game that costs us exactly nothing to give you a digital copy, and then we'll put in one of the new controllers that cost $80 instead of $70.
Yeah.
It's there's your upgrade. That's what you're paying for, the extra spiffy controller.
That said, it's really only Nintendo right now that's playing around with not custom consoles, but alternative consoles for game releases, because they did one for Splatoon recently. They did one for Legend of Zelda. I think the Diablo Xbox, when it came out, just came with a bundled game inside. I don't think it looked any different from what I recall.
It's making me miss the idea of I love the. Oh no, I had it backwards. The Star Wars Limited Edition is the one that I moved upstairs because it wasn't a Pro. It was just a PS4, and it was the first one I bought. But literally, the controller looked like it was color coded to match Darth Vader's chest plate.
That's
the
cool.
PS4 box itself had a Vader imprint on it, and then the touchpad, instead of having just the textured grooves, had the word Star Wars stenciled in it on the touchpad. It was awesome. That thing's worth so much more than just a PS4 because it's a really cool looking PS4. And so even if it's not running great, it's no, it still looks awesome. But yeah, my PS4 Pro, just a black rhombus. I wanted to get one of those Amazing Spider-Man ones. I just had already bought me a PS4 Pro. Damn it.
Yeah. And I love my Spider-Man edition PS4 Pro. It's cool. It looks really different.
I'm actually thinking about popping my PS5 case off and thinking of something to paint on it, but I'm not sure what I want to do to it yet. So I haven't taken the cover off.
Is Sony makes them, and I know now D-Brand does too, is you can buy alternative, the fins that are on it, that are the part of the outside case that clip on and off.
Yeah.
You can buy different color version ones and stuff like that. D-Brand did ones that were the retro versions that looked like the translucent N64 plastic. If you remember the translucent stuff.
Nice.
So you get purple and green and a few other colors to put that translucent plastic on there as the outside.
The old school see-through. Yeah, the old school see-through controllers and stuff.
Yeah, that was neat. And I'm surprised Sony doesn't do something as simple as that for some of these console bundles. Is okay for Spider-Man, we're gonna make red shell to put on there, because all they have to do is make red ones and clip them on. There's not anything different in manufacturing the console itself. It's literally
and they can charge
ones on.
Yeah, they charge extra $20-$50 for basically changing the paint job. It's You guys just spend 10 cents on paint and make $40 profit, but you're still not going to do it.
I mean, as it is now, what you could do is they're white on the PlayStation right now, I believe. So just
Yeah.
take them off, paint them red, and stencil on the white Spider-Man like we had on the PS4 Pro for Spider-Man.
Yeah, I've been thinking about it. I've been thinking about I was actually thinking about like taking the cover off, painting the whole thing red, and then doing a slash and doing like the top left part of the spider on Peter's chest, and then the other side being the spider on Miles's chest. So it'd be the split of the two. So I'd have a custom Amazing Spider-Man 2 cover on my PS5.
See, that'd be cool. That's the stuff that I wish they were doing this time around. I guess I do need a little bit of crow, though, because Microsoft did do a custom one for Halo, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, which makes sense. It's one of their big sellers.
I don't know if they've done it for any other ones. I know they've done like some one-off ones that were for like giveaways and stuff like that, but I can't remember if they sold any other bundle-specific ones. I think the last one that they did prior to that was the launch Xbox One X's had a different appearance than the rest of the One X's or something like that.
As I never saw who won or who ended up getting it, but someone did with Behavior. They had an artist that did 2 custom, I think they were PS5 Dead by Daylight Trapper Edition PS5s. So they literally redid the cover of the PS5 to where it looked like a brick wall with like a hockey mask coming through it. I'm sorry, not a hockey mask, an Evan McMillan Trapper mask. Yeah. But yeah, it had like, like moss growing on it and like
That's
all
cool.
this cool paint job. And it was literally the artist did 2 of them and then Behavior gave them away in a giveaway. So like there's 2 of those PS5s in the world. It's like that would be an awesome freaking thing to win. But yeah, there's only 2 of them. It's not like you can buy it. Like you had to win the contest to get it. It's like, well, just I don't know. I always thought the limited editions of consoles were cool because it's like if you're gonna drop $500-$600 on a console, I would rather have one, later on with a game bundled in it that I really like that looks really cool. Because it's like you're gonna have that thing for 4 to 5 years.
The problem in today's world, though, is actually getting it, though.
Well, yeah, because all the damn scalpers ruining everything.
I think Nintendo kind of worked the scalpers a little bit because they made so many copies of the Splatoon and Pokemon and Legend of Zelda Switches that you could literally just walk into Walmart and buy one the day they came out. So
yeah, but that's the way it should be. These companies should be making so many PS5s that I can walk into any store right now and buy one, and you still can't.
So I'm not necessarily as concerned about the limited edition or the custom editions being readily findable, but the standard edition ones should be. Like, I wouldn't have been upset personally, maybe because I wasn't trying to get one, but say Nintendo had said, hey, Legend of Zelda editions of the Switch, we're only going to make X number of them, so they will be kind of limited. Now, the problem is the scalpers make that problematic, but so long as you could walk into a store and still buy a Switch, whether it's the Zelda version or the regular version, I think that's okay.
Yeah, because I mean, especially with like companies like Sony know they're going to sell, umpteen million units of the PS5. So don't produce a tenth of that and then try to create scarcity and then the scalpers get them all. Like,
exactly.
You need 50 million units. Make 50 million units, you lazy motherfuckers. You're going to sell them. You're going to make billions of dollars. Like, it's not like they're going to sit on shelves. We know that.
Well, I mean, I know right now, the last time I went out and ran errands, I was at both Walmart and Target. I could get a God of War Edition PlayStation at both of them. I could get a Xbox Series S or X at Walmart, but I think Target only had the Series S or something like that.
Okay, so they're finally actually hitting shelves and staying there.
I haven't seen any issues getting them. And last time I was in GameStop, I was talking to the guy. He goes, "Yeah, once a week we'd get like 15 to 20 PlayStations generally." He goes, we're even at the point now GameStop's selling used ones because people trade things in. But I'm not buying a used, I guess, current gen, what we used to be calling next gen console at GameStop for the $20 it saves me. It's not worth losing the manufacturer warranty capability and things like that. I mean,
it's also not worth giving money to GameStop.
It's also not, even if you bought the extra warranty from GameStop, we don't know how much longer GameStop's going to exist.
That's true.
I mean, I still have
that store could pull a Hastings any minute and just
I've talked the problems I've had with them before, and so I've placed like one other order with them since that, and it was something that I got for my wife because it was Pokemon cards that were dirt cheap, and it has been processing for 2.5 months at this point because well, they're back ordered. I'm like, why didn't it update the back order? I was like, I think you just screwed up the price. You're hoping that I'll cancel before
So the order still doesn't even say that it's gone through. It's still processing.
It still says processing. And as far as I can tell, my card hasn't been charged, so that's fine. It can sit there and do that. But yeah.
Dirtbags.
Well, the people. One thing people need to keep in mind though with GameStop is the people that work at the stores are not a reflection of the corporate's policies and stuff like that. So while you may have issues with GameStop if you go to one, don't give the employees shit because they're just trying to do their job.
Yeah,
and most
that's
of them do
a 16-year-old kid that it's a 16-year-old kid or a 32-year-old adult that just wanted to work in a video game store.
Yeah,
it's like I always wanted to work in Blockbuster, never got the chance.
That would have been fun, I think, but at the same time would have also been exhausting because you'd have to be like, no, that movie's shit. Don't do it. Don't do it. Oh no, you did it.
Yep.
You did it.
Oh no, I definitely would have been like I would have been a full-on Randall. Telling people that their taste in movies sucked. It's like don't come to rent this here. This movie's awful. No, I'm not renting you Titanic. This movie's trash. Go away. Go pick up something good.
Not sure we should be referencing Titanic today.
Honestly, I wasn't thinking about that. I was literally just thinking about one of the most popular movies that I've hated, and sadly that is the one that came to mind.
Yeah.
Apologies.
Yeah, apologies. They did find parts of the hull, so I think we know how that ended at this point in time. Yeah. I don't know. On that note, let's get off dark topics here because, hey, if you want to hear people talk about the Titan sub and things like that, you can go online and find people far more equipped to talk about it than we are. In fact, it's probably all over cable news right now because that's the news story of the day of the things they found. What we're going to do is we're going to get into what we like to call the news of the week.
Live from the ATGN studios on the internet. It's the news of the week.
Welcome to the news of the week. It is that part of the show where we run down what is in our minds some of the most interesting, geeky, or nerdy news that's come up here as of late and share it with you guys who are watching live or listening at a later date. It's just the two of us today, so we'll probably meander and we might pick up some other stuff randomly as I'm scrolling through Twitter as there's more stuff that makes me go, what the hell? I'm sure my brain wires will cross and I'll bring that up. But before they cross again, I'll go first with my news story, which is FTC versus Microsoft going on today. So there's been a lot of coverage coming out of it. There's been a lot of interesting stuff that's come out of it. And if you recall, one of the arguments that has been made by Sony specifically, and I'm not trying to console war here, let me make this clear to everyone who's listening, watching, anything like that. I'm not console warring. I just find this point interesting. One of the things that came up is they had concerns of Microsoft pulling Call of Duty as a multi-party, being on multiple platforms and what that could do for them. You heard Sony talking about it all around. It's been in all of the court cases, things like that. Yeah, we kind of talked about the fact that someone behind the scenes at a Sony CEO, but corner office grouping, for lack of a better term, when they had all the bigwigs in place, was saying there's more to it than this. It's more they just don't want them to get it. Well, within minutes of FTC versus Microsoft today, there was a bombshell revelation. This comes from The Verge. Sony's PlayStation chief Jim Ryan believed that Microsoft's proposed acquisition of Activision Blizzard wasn't locking games as Xbox exclusives, according to newly unsealed emails. Microsoft counsel revealed the exchange between Ryan and a former Sony CEO discussing the announcement. In the email, he says, it's not an exclusivity play at all. They're thinking bigger than that, and they have the cash to make moves like that. I've spent a fair amount of time with Phil Spencer and Bobby Kotick, and I'm pretty sure we'll continue to see Call of Duty on PlayStation for years to come. Why this is interesting is it runs completely counter to some of the arguments that Sony's made about the acquisition, effectively saying, hey, we fear that Call of Duty is not going to be on our platform or will become exclusive to Xbox only, or they'll sabotage and degrade the PlayStation version of it. Yeah, they didn't actually believe that, it turns out, but they certainly went around and talked to regulators and talked all sorts of other stuff about it to make it seem like it was a problem. In fact, Ryan continued to say in his email, we have some good stuff cooking. I'm not complacent. I'd rather this didn't happen, but we'll be okay. We'll be more than okay. So the argument of, Microsoft's going to pull the rug out from under us, it's dumb. And for those that don't remember, shortly after the acquisition news came out, they offered a deal up for 3 years. Guaranteed we're not going to pull it from PlayStation. Sony said no. Microsoft then offered a 10-year deal which Sony is still saying no to, and Microsoft hasn't countered with a longer deal at this point in time. But if you go and look at the numbers, and part of what's been fascinating about this FTC briefing, and you can find some of the folks that are live covering it, is you can look in there, and there's emails from Microsoft internally, and there's charts and stuff that are displayed, which basically comes down to, and let me simplify it, we'd be really freaking dumb to pull Call of Duty and make it Xbox only, because it sells a boatload on PlayStation, and you want that money. And that doesn't mean they wouldn't necessarily make it Game Pass for Xbox users to get more people into Game Pass and things like that. But I was kind of fascinated, but unsurprised that they're making that argument when they really don't believe in that argument, just as a way to try to hold things up.
I was like, it's because we heard about this buyout. I was like, that's going to be Sony's argument, is that Microsoft would have the ability to pull Call of Duty from them.
Yes.
And even if they don't believe it, they're publicly stating that, yes, that's what we think is going to happen.
Well, I mean, but like I said, Microsoft offered a 10-year deal. They've offered it to others. Others have signed it. They've also said to Nintendo that when this deal goes through, we want to bring Call of Duty to the Nintendo Switch. Their plan isn't necessarily to consolidate the studios and make things, or multiple things, console specific. It's more to get those studios and to further enrich the Game Pass product, because once you get more people in seeing the value, and Sony's starting to see it with their competing product, then you can eventually raise the price, because, outside of the continental United States, Game Pass prices are going up also for subscriptions.
Of course.
As it is right now, I think it's like $9.99 a month for Game Pass Ultimate, which that's not bad. Every Christmas I buy like 12 to 18 months worth of gift cards for it when you can find them on sale and just stack them.
Yeah, that's what we do for our PlayStation. Me and Janet, we always look for the sale, because you can get, though it's normally the $60 for the year, usually goes on sale in November for $40. You buy like one or two of them, you toss on your account, you're good for another year.
Right.
Instead of paying the monthly, because if you pay the monthly, you're just losing money every month.
I mean, that's
yeah. Game Pass keeps getting more and more stuff on it. Like, if anything, I'll be honest, it keeps looking more and more attractive. It keeps looking better and better than what PlayStation gives us for the base level. Like, a couple games a month is not as good as the actual Game Pass, where you're getting like a library.
Oh, Xbox Games with Gold has been trash for years at this point in time.
Yeah.
There's never anything good on Games with Gold anymore. Maybe it's because I got all the good stuff early on, and I look at it, I'm like, why would I want that?
That's true. Yeah, there's only so many good games they're going to give away for free, right?
Yeah. And the other thing that the legal arguments are coming down to, both in the UK here and the United States, is now into cloud gaming, and the argument is being made it gives Microsoft an overly large and unfair advantage when it comes to cloud gaming, but they're also screwing up the numbers for it, at least in the British case with the CMA, from what I recall, because they basically equated all Game Pass subscribers to cloud gamers, to then argue that that's a distinct advantage if you put all of these Blizzard games on Microsoft's cloud. And I guess why I bring this up is one of the guys that's covering right now was talking to, is watching the FTC stuff, where they were asking about game streaming and things like that in xCloud. And Sarah Bond, and I can't remember her position, but she's one of the people in the corner offices at Microsoft, I can't remember her exact position, said in regards to Game Pass Unlimited and xCloud, yes, people can stream, but the way we're predominantly seeing people do it is because they don't want to download a game to play on Game Pass. They can just hit the play button and start streaming the game to their Xbox. And, if you have a connection that's not exactly super fast, sometimes these games can take a while to download, because, for instance, like Jedi Survivor I have on my Xbox is 120 gig download.
Oh yeah, and we remember like there was one point where, I can't remember what the game was, but Willie, when he was on his old internet, which had a really slow download speed, like I had downloaded and started playing something the morning of the podcast, and he still had like 40 hours of download to go before he was even going to be able to start playing the game. It's like, that makes a huge difference depending on where you live. Because it's not like we have the greatest internet, out in freaking Idaho. But like, yeah, that day I remember like I had downloaded and started playing a game. Maybe it was Miles or something. But yeah, Willie was like, oh no, I'll get to it eventually this evening. Because like right now my PlayStation says I have like 30 or 40 hours left to download. It's like, yeah, that sucks.
So there's a lot of interesting stuff going on right now, and I find it fascinating, and I'm trying not to put a fanboy hat on. So if anyone feels that I did, I apologize. Feel free to call me out in the chat room or on the Twitters or on Discord, any of those things. It's more because I'm invested, I'm more fascinated to see how it develops is what I think is the case. Which I don't think is wrong.
In the long run, like, this is a decision that might affect a lot of the studios for a good long time, depending on what the legal decision is. Like, it could have long-reaching repercussions.
Oh, very much so. I don't know. I'm very curious to see how it develops. Like I said, it's all ongoing stuff. I think Microsoft's supposed to close it out by mid-July, the deal. And there's like a $3 billion breakup fee associated with it. So that's sort of how they're pushing things with both CMA and the FTC is, hey, this has been in the works for how long, and we're a month away, and we still can't.
Yeah.
So they've been getting these court cases expedited because they're like, hey, we're supposed to close a deal, and you guys have sat around and be like, we're not going to do anything until right before it's over. Now, my understanding is, and I'm not a legal expert, this is coming from folks that have reviewed the contracts and stuff like that, who have been covering this case, so I assume are more in the know than I am, that have said that this can be renegotiated at the date, but that might mean that valuations in the deal could change and things like that, meaning Activision could say, yeah, we want more money now, or something like that. I don't know if that will be the case. I don't know. By all accounts, it sounds like the Activision executives are on board with the Microsoft executives with this merger, and probably so, because they'll get paid a shitload of money. But if it doesn't close by, I want to say July 17th is when it's supposed to close, and don't quote me on that, but it's mid to late July, then we could be in a whole different world of Microsoft being like, well, we're either paying $3 billion to get out of this because we can't guarantee that this will get approved because the courts are still holding things up, or, hey, we think this is going to go through, let's renegotiate the deal, in which case Activision could be, well, we're still keen to do it, but the courts are looking like they're leaning towards no, so we want a $5 billion termination fee if things don't work out. So it could shake things up.
It makes sense. Like, if you go to buy something and then 2 years later you still haven't been able to finish the transaction, like, there's a reason that both sides might want to relook at how much they're willing to pay for what they're going to get.
And to clarify, the only regulatory bodies that haven't approved it yet is the British CMA and the FTC here in the United States, is my understanding. Pretty much all other international regulatory bodies and country-specific ones have approved the deal at this point in time.
So for us, it's the Federal Trade Commission. What's the CMA?
I should remember this, and
sorry, because all I'm hearing in my head is Country Music Awards, and I'm pretty sure they don't have anything to do with this deal.
The British Competition and Markets Authority.
Okay. So it sounds like kind of
thing.
their version of the Federal Trade Commission.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
I'm so used to reading the coverage where everyone just shortens it down to CMA, because especially in text limited spaces, because most people are just live tweeting things as they go, you don't want to waste the characters. You can use 3 characters, or you can use probably 20, 30 some characters.
Yeah, it's always all about saving space,
especially for those of us that aren't the landed gentry with Twitter Blue. I ain't paying Twitter for anything.
Hell no.
Twitter can suck on these opinions.
Nuts. The word you're looking for is nuts.
These opinions.
These nuts.
Although, this is going to be my random aside. Did you see that Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg want to have a UFC fight now? It's the dumbest thing ever. I guess Musk challenged him on Twitter, and Zuckerberg said, I'm down, let's do it. And Zuckerberg's press guys were like, no, he's serious. He'll fight him. And I was like, no.
Neither one of those two could fight their way out of a wet paper bag.
No, Zuckerberg's like a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Is he?
Yeah.
He's a billionaire.
Supposedly he's a decent... He's been training for a while. I can't remember exactly.
And supposedly Steven Seagal has like 9 black belts, but I just see a fat guy with a ponytail.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think either one of them is Cowboy Don Cerrone level, so I would not pay to see this fight.
He's been competing in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournaments, evidently, too. So he's actually won tournaments. So he's got some kind of skill compared to Elon Musk, which probably doesn't. No, he said he got into extremely hardcore street fights when he was a kid or something like that. Yeah.
Whereas parents like paid people to let him beat him up.
Right.
No, you'll be able to show me a fight. Either one of them, actually, no, fuck that. Both of them in the ring versus Tom Hardy. who has been quietly winning what I know are legit jiu-jitsu tournaments and not telling anybody about it because he enters them under his real name. And yeah, Tom Hardy's out there actually just bashing people to death because that dude is just scary.
I'm not a
in real life.
Zuckerberg guy, but he hasn't really been like subtle with. I mean, he's spoken in interviews before that he has an interest in the martial arts and he's been doing tournaments and stuff like that. So it's not like it's some kind of press maneuver. It doesn't seem like. Now,
not something brand new.
Him getting into a fight with Musk would be hilarious, but it's incredibly dumb. Because
that would be some of this shit is what we'd actually get.
If he's actually been competing in and winning jiu-jitsu tournaments against a dude who had hardcore street fights as a kid, you're gonna get your ass kicked.
More than likely.
But I guess reading between the lines, I guess Facebook is trying to make something Twitter-like to replace them. So that's probably part of why this whole idea was pitched by one Elon Musk of getting in a fight with Mark Zuckerberg. I was looking at this like, is this real or is this something out of South Park? And I was like, holy shit, it's probably actually both. Real, where they're both talking about they want to fight each other. And I'm like, oh, stupid rich white men.
Yeah, pretty much. We got plenty of them. Let them fight. I won't pay to watch it, but I'll watch it for free on YouTube.
Zuckerberg's basically a robot, so he's got to win, right?
Neither one of them actually looks like a human, so...
I mean, I guess I'm shaming and judging there. I apologize for anyone offended there. All I can think.
So am I, and I don't apologize.
Yeah, all I can think is that South Park episode where he's talking about his style and going around like a martial arts robot, and I just am laughing now. Oh, maturity. It's overrated.
Oh yeah. South Park. I still haven't watched all of that one yet.
There's a lot there too. I think that's it for my news, though, unless I randomly happen upon more crap on Twitter. So I'm going to toss things over to you, sir. What you got for us, Mr. Bachman?
We got Netflix doing an update from a Variety article on when was this? Where's the date at? June 20th by Joe Osterson. Netflix updates the top 10 charts to include estimated viewers in additions to hours viewed. So this is something where Googling it, Netflix has said they were going to give numbers like, I think like over the last 4 years, they've said it like 10 times. And then there's like, oh no, well, we can't give up this. We can't give up that. No one wants to give up trade secrets, blah, blah, blah. But they're actually making a change. And I went and looked, and it actually is on the Netflix top 10 at netflix.com/tadum/top 10. You can look and see that Extraction 2 has 9.6 million views this week, and it has the date on it for June 12th through June 18th. And you can filter, like through films that are in English. Let's see, what is the other part of it here? So yeah, right now it's top 10 films in English, non-English, top 10 TV in English, top 10 TV and non-English. And it'll go and it just filters through each one and gives you the number of views. For the article from Variety, see what it says. Starting today, Streaming Job will provide an estimated viewership for the weekly charts of its top shows and films. This will be estimated by taking the traditional hours viewed that they have provided for some time and divided by the show or film's total runtime. So Netflix will be extending the window of measurement for most popular lists for TV and film from 28 days to 91 days. So basically rating them, over the course of 3 months. It says, for example, season 1 of Wednesday has an estimated 252.1 million views based on 1.718 billion hours viewed in the first 61 days of availability, divided by its 6-hour, 49-minute runtime. Doesn't mean that 252 million people finish the series. However, nor does it account for anyone who rewatched within the viewing window. It was reported earlier this year that Netflix has a subscriber base of 232.5 million people, which, yikes. Yeah, so in this week's top 10 film, Extraction pulled an estimated 43 million views based on 88.38 million hours viewed, divided by its runtime of just over 2 hours. So they're doing views based on runtime divided by the number of people that have watched. And then, yeah, weirdly, we were talking about a pre-show. Apparently in the algorithm, like they still can't figure out if someone watched the movie Extraction 4 times. Like every streaming service has the, here's the thing you watch. Here's the thing that's on your watch list. Here's your continue watching stuff for the things you haven't finished. And here's the things you've already watched, and here's a list of things based on what you watched that we think you'd also like. They can't figure out how to tell if a viewer has watched something twice. That seems weirdly limited to me. But
yeah, that's so odd.
I mean, yeah, that part of it is very strange. But I mean, compared to where we used to, everything in TV was based on Nielsen ratings. People that actually filled out the little survey and filled out their chart of what they watched each week. And it's been strange because since the launch of all the streamers, we haven't really had numbers, actual solid numbers. And these are still, a variation on that. Because like I said, if I watched the movie Extraction 2, it was great. But maybe I watched it 4 times this week. Apparently Netflix can't tell. And so those 8 hours of me watching it would count as would count as 1 view instead of 4. Where if I watched it 4 times, shouldn't it count as 4?
One would think.
Yeah.
I mean,
so,
at the very least, they should be able to see user X has watched Extraction for, say, 6 hours, which would make you think, well,
exactly.
the movie's longer than
shorter
than
accumulated
that.
time. Yeah, how much accumulated time has this account watched this movie or series versus the runtime? You'd think they'd be able to do that, or if they can, they're just not reporting it. But we are still, it's a step forward. We're getting, supposedly more accurate numbers of what actually makes something a top 10 show on Netflix. Because it used to be, it's like, oh, hey, Rings of Power is the number one watch show on Amazon of all time. It's like, well, Amazon Prime's only been around for, a couple years. And what does that number mean? What does number one watch show mean? We have no clue. Did 10 people watch it or 10 million people watch it? We have no clue. So at least now Netflix has taken a step of pointing at least one of the streamers in the direction of giving us somewhat numbers. If I wouldn't call them concrete numbers, but we're getting a better idea of the number of people that have actually viewed these movies and these shows. So that, by comparison, Netflix can probably say, hey, we have 232 million subscribers. We got 80 million views on this movie. So we know, a good chunk of our audience watched this movie. Let's throw some more money at it. We're going to get Extraction 3 because everybody loves Chris Hemsworth as this. I can't remember the character's name, but
I can't either.
Like Extraction 2 was good. Like I did it. I enjoyed the hell of it. And there's a fight sequence. I haven't looked to see. I don't know if they were trying to go for like the longest one-shot fight sequence on camera of all time. But if you told me that Extraction 2 has that, I would not be shocked. Because there's a sequence where like he goes to break into a prison. And like from there to like a train crash, it's played out as if it's all one shot. And it's a section of the movie that maybe takes 25 minutes. Like, it's insane. And it's got like, there's whip pans in there. So, there's spots where they could digitally cut and go to a different, cut of the scene. So, it's one of those ones where it's like, well, it looks like it's all one shot. It's probably a built up of like 3 or 4. But yeah, it's got a really long action sequence that's just badass. And there's some really cool stuff in it where it's like, okay, these writers and directors, producers came up with a couple of action sequences like where you're going to see something you haven't seen before in an action movie. And that's what you want from your action movies. Like John Wick 4, which I just finally watched. Oh my God. When you get to see something in action film that you've never seen before, especially these days, it's really, really freaking cool. But yeah, so we're getting better numbers from Netflix, if not concrete numbers. And I mean, in the long run, you'd hope that this would push all of the streaming services to eventually start doing some type of, here's how many people are actually watching this show. Amazon can talk all they want about how Rings of Power was like the number one show, but I know a lot more people that watch The Boys than Rings of Power.
Hasn't Nielsen been updated to do streaming numbers and stuff now too, I think?
I'm not sure because I haven't actually looked at it, and I don't know how many of the Nielsen ratings, because I remember at one point, like I had signed up to be a Nielsen household, like in my early 20s, like when I was living in an apartment in the Navy, and they literally just mailed you a chart and you like put an X next to what you watched. Like it wasn't something where like I had a box and it actually was tracking what you were watching. You were just telling them what you were watching. So like if there was a movie on at 2 a.m. that I liked, I could put an X next to it that I had watched it, even if I was asleep during that. And so, yeah, I'm not really sure how the Nielsen ratings are currently working.
I wager there's tech behind it now, but I will say
there should be.
Many years ago, this is probably like a decade at this point in time, I always, whatever the radio ratings folks are, I got to do that. And it was for like 3 weeks. I basically filled out a booklet every day of what I listened to. So it was like, okay, I listened to this radio station while I was driving in. Then when I was at work, I had like a little AM radio station I sometimes listened to, an FM1, so I'd write it down in that little book, the stuff I listened to. And I think they sent me like $30 when it was all said and done, something like that. This is like a decade ago, I think. So I would assume that it could just be as simple now. I mean, I don't know that I would do this. It might just be as simple as putting an app on someone's phone, but I don't like the thought that that would be there. Who knows? I'm sure there is something more than just relying on the honor system, because I'm sure there are people that would game the system.
Yeah, because it seems like it's something at this point. Like it, I mean, if the Nielsen ratings are really going to be a thing, it's something that should be embedded into Max and Amazon and Netflix. But I know I can assume that there's no overall piece of software in the architecture that would be able to connect them all. And yet, if you really want numbers, there should be.
Well, it depends on how do they capture that stuff. Is it something that listens to like key sounds and stuff and identifies shows by key sound? Is it, I don't know. Is it something that you put in between, say, your cable box or your streaming box and your TV that basically looks at the picture and sends them information based off that? I have no idea how that stuff works.
Yeah, because because it seems like at this point there should be something.
I could have sworn they were saying something about Nielsen now handling stuff with streaming products and stuff like that. I do know on like YouTube TV, I think it's turned off by default, but you can opt into sharing your information with Nielsen so that based off of YouTube's going to know you're watching, say, ESPN right now and could provide that information to Nielsen to say, hey, user XYZ1 was watching ESPN from 5:15 to 5:45 this evening. I don't know. This is all just theorizing and talking off the top of my head. I really have no idea.
Let's see. Googling, how are current Nielsen ratings calculated?
I mean,
providing devices called audio meters to its panel households. Devices collect viewership data from the household televisions and send it back to Nielsen. So apparently it actually is them going off the audio of what your TV is playing. That's, I mean, I guess it makes some sense because you'd have to actually be playing it. It's not just, checking a box like I did or you did for the radio. Yeah. It seems weird. It's also strange. It's like, okay, so they send that to 1,000 households, and those 1,000 households determine what everybody watches. Like, really? Well, those 800 of those people didn't like Seinfeld. It wouldn't have become the #1 show.
I mean, we're also in a world nowadays where like ratings become less useful because live television really only matters for things like sports, because then you have to factor in DVR ratings, because the success of some television shows we have on TV, they could have terrible live numbers, but when you do like the live plus 3-day DVR, then they could have huge numbers.
Yeah, because don't they say it's always like the plus 8 hours, plus 24 hours, plus 48 hours or whatever? It's like, okay, if you look at the first 3 days, well, then we know that like this show destroyed everything.
Right.
But not everybody watched it on Friday afternoon when it came out because they were at work or they were doing whatever, or blah, blah, blah. But over the course of 3 days, this show has 10 times the amount of viewers than the show that was actually watched live when, the baseball game was happening or whatever else that they were watching.
I mean, in the nature of TV and having choices has changed. Like, I'm sort of familiar with this because if you go on some like the pro wrestling subreddits and things like that, people get uber fixated so they can have their fanboy wars over AEW's ratings and Raw's ratings and SmackDown's ratings, and AEW hasn't cleared a 1.0 in 3 weeks or something like that. That means they're on the decline. I'm like, well, maybe live, but there's a lot of people, especially like Friday night, have other shit they're doing. They're not going to stay home at 10 o'clock at night to watch pro wrestling. Now, I mean, I do because I don't have a fucking life. I don't do anything. But
well, and also, I mean, you want to argue that something's on the decline. Yeah, that's why they got a third show. Is because they're on the decline.
And more what I was bringing up is they try and throw these numbers out, but they're like Monday Night War numbers. When I'm like, okay, go back to the Monday Night War. We had less cable channels. There were less options for things to watch. Yeah, they could pull a 12.0 or something like that. And I'm pulling that number out of my ass, but it is a big number in comparison to, say, like the 1.9 or the 2.3 or something they might pull now. And it doesn't mean that less people are watching wrestling per se. It means that less people are watching it through that window you can measure. There's probably a lot of people that watch it on Peacock. There's a lot of people that stream it after the fact. There's a lot of people that watch it on YouTube because a bunch of stuff gets put up on YouTube all the time. People are consuming, and the right metric to know how people are consuming your product isn't necessarily your Nielsen numbers.
Yeah. Well, that's why, a lot of them look at like their like social media engagement when the thing is live or during the 3 days that people are watching it. Because, there's lots of people that don't even watch pay-per-views live anymore. You watch them later on.
I'll go down a wrestling rabbit hole, just a brief aside. The people that try and be like, oh, Orange Cassidy isn't over. People don't like Orange Cassidy. I'm like, well, number one, you're an idiot because he's a good wrestler and the character is hilarious and things like that. But I was like, go on the AEW YouTube channel. Look at their most popular videos. 3 out of the top 5 are with Orange Cassidy in them.
Well, and I love it too because the only wrestling podcast I listen to is WWF, Wrestling with Friends, Wrestling with Freddie Prinze Jr. show, and like they've started covering AEW every week. And he was like very clear about the fact that he did not like the character of Orange Cassidy because he didn't get it.
Right.
And now he says, now I got it. And like I've turned on him and I love him. I was like, yeah, I knew Orange Cassidy was over the first time I watched a show where he walked out and there was a kid at ringside wearing aviator sunglasses with their hair combed over, wearing a denim jacket. And that kid was sitting there doing this. And Orange Cassidy walked over and gave him the world's laziest fist bump.
For those
as soon as I saw that, I knew it was over.
For those that are on audio, Orange Cassidy does a thumbs up that's like a lazy one with his thumb barely raised. That's what Bachman was doing there. But
the world's laziest thumb raised.
Kids love him. And the other thing is, like, people try and make fun of the gimmick because the gimmick is he's a lazy wrestler and he's too cool for everything. But like, the dude can go. He's put on some bangers of matches with his gimmick of having to act lazy in a bunch of stuff. Like, the dude can go. He's really good, and it's fascinating.
Well, because I think originally I thought that it was just he was the lazy wrestler. It's not that he's lazy; it's that he doesn't care.
Yeah,
and like that's why he brings his championship belt to the ring in a backpack because he doesn't care to wear it around his waist.
He doesn't like to carry things.
Yeah, he doesn't want to carry it, so just put it in a backpack. So yeah, it's I love it now because I also originally was like, what the fuck is this? He's the world's laziest wrestler? I was like, well, no, because he doesn't just lay there and do nothing. It's that he doesn't care. It's like, but then once you get into the point where he does care, and you get the blood orange and then the orange punch, it's awesome.
He's basically Paul Rudd from Wet Hot American Summer, as a professional wrestler. That's the best way to equate Orange Cassidy.
Whatever. Yeah, he's the king of whatever, and he's so good at it. And if he wasn't a talented wrestler, he wouldn't be able to pull off this character.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Taking us back to ratings and stuff like that is. You could try and look at the Nielsen breakdown like, oh my God, there's a 0.3 bump when Orange Cassidy's on. And there is value in looking at that to see how a live audience reacts. And I'm pulling that number out of my ass, by the way, just for comparison purposes.
We make up numbers here at ATGN.
I'm making them up for the purpose of painting the picture here. But you can look at that to be like, oh my God, Orange Cassidy's popular. When he's on TV, more people tune in or more people stuck around because they knew Orange Cassidy was coming up. Or you could also look at, hey, here's this video of an Orange Cassidy match that we just put up on YouTube or something, or an Orange Cassidy highlight or an interview, and it's going gangbusters, getting shared all over the place, got a ton of views. You can see the social media engagement on things like that. The world has changed, so you don't necessarily value success for television products only through the lens of Nielsen numbers. Nielsen numbers are helpful. I think they can be a tool, but there's so many other things to look at too. And
there's lots. Yeah, lots of different ways to look at it.
A lot of people don't consume traditional television anymore, like especially younger kids, like the kids that are in college right now, stuff like that. You're like, TV? They're like, TV? Nah, dude, I'll just put it on my phone, stuff like that. I don't think the Nielsen numbers are measuring phone consumption, things like that.
Well, and I still sit and watch TV shows, and my wife thinks it's weird because once we start a show, I have to finish them. If it's 1 season or 7 seasons, right now I'm like 3 episodes into the 6th season of Longmire because she finally got me to sit down and watch more than the pilot. And I realized how great the show is, how awesome like the storytelling is on that show. And now I'm finishing season 6. Like it's what I watch during my breaks from work. I go watch 15 minutes of Longmire and then a half an hour at lunch and another 15 minutes. So I get through about an episode a day. And she's like, I don't know how you could sit and just watch a show like that nonstop. Where, like I said, I'm on season 6 now. Like I finished all of Yellowstone and Yellowstone 1893 and Yellowstone 1920 whatever, and then I watched all 3 seasons of Picard, and now I'm finishing off Longmire. Like that's how I watch television. But at the same time, she'll go put on a YouTube channel of like Disney people that are going to the parks and going to the hotels and stuff, and she can watch that for 6 hours straight on YouTube. But she can't sit and watch 3 episodes in a row of scripted television. That people just watch shit differently now than they ever have before. And a lot of that is because you have so many options. There's so many different ways. That's
where the problem too, though.
Yeah. When we were kids, like there are shows on UPN and CW that were canceled now that would be the #1 rated show in the world if they were getting numbers now that they were getting in 1992.
The problem with having all those choices is it's like I have paralysis by choice at some point.
Yeah.
So I'm like, no, I don't want to figure out what I need to invest my time into. I'm just going to turn on YouTube and go watch stupid videos or random.
It's one of the
videos.
reasons. It's one of the reasons I'm kind of happy we're cutting back on our streaming services here. Like we're getting nickel and dime by having so many. It's like, this is awesome. I have access to so many different TV shows and so many different movies. But I get done with my work day. My wife starts cooking dinner, and I'm like, well, what do you want to watch tonight? She's like, I don't care. Pick something. And then I open up Roku, and I'm like, okay, so in the top 9, I have Netflix and Hulu and Amazon and Disney Plus and freaking Paramount Plus and Peacock, and like, there's too much. There's too many different things. It's like I could spend an hour just scrolling through Netflix and not pick something.
Yeah.
It's like, it's insane. We have too many choices.
And I'll be honest, when it comes to my default thing I go to when I get done with work and I'm relaxing, having a lemonade and maybe a snack after work before I got to worry about making dinner, I turn on YouTube and I go into my subscriptions and see what's up of the things that I subscribe that I'm interested in. And that's become my default of the apps I go to consume stuff. And I get YouTube Premium as part of my Pixel Pass plan for my phone, so I don't get commercials. So I mean,
there you go.
It allows me to kind of curate things I like, and I subscribe to a variety of different things, some of which I might for 1 week be like, oh, I don't necessarily care about this topic, and not watch it. And it becomes easier because it's basically just like open the hose of the things I like and push play, versus me having to go on well, I don't have Netflix anymore, but say Paramount Plus, be like, I got to find something I'm interested in. I mean, side note, Star Trek Strange New Worlds just started season 2. It's been great. Go check it out for yourselves, guys. Episode 2 is on tonight. And I think I missed yesterday Secret Invasion starting, so I need to watch episode 1 of Secret Invasion. Oops.
Yeah, you can join in the argument about the AI intro.
It's all right. So let's talk about the AI intro before we get out of here, because I laughed.
I will tell you, the first episode it's good. It's good storytelling. Yeah. Sam Jackson's fantastic. What they've done with the scrolls and the time that we haven't seen where they've been in like the 30 years since Captain Marvel, because we're basically jumping forward from, we saw the scrolls on Earth looking for a new home. We saw Captain Marvel and Nick Fury try to help them, and now we're jumping forward to post-blip, Sam Jackson coming back down to Earth to deal with the problem. Because guess what? There's been shapeshifters on Earth for 30 years. Shit happens. Well, some of them are not what we would call good citizens, and they're out there shapeshifting and causing trouble.
Right.
Like, they're scrolls. It's what they do.
So let's talk the controversy, because I initially laughed, and I'm still not as butthurt. I'm not really butthurt over it like some people seem to be. I sort of get where some folks are coming from. But for those that aren't aware, like, the whole opening credits of Secret Invasion is made by AI. Now, let's also clarify, it's not as simple as you tell the computer, I want opening credits with Marvel characters, push play. There's a bit more to it than figuring out the right stuff.
They wrote out, I want opening credits for a TV show about an alien invasion with Sam Jackson with a lot of green. So that's what they wrote.
I doubt that I somehow doubt that it's that simple. I mean,
I doubt that it's much more complicated than that. You see what they've done.
Yeah, it's not. It doesn't look great, so it made me laugh. And then people are like, they've got a house of artists, blah 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 blah. I'm like, I don't know. I think that Disney kind of caught themselves going, AI is the big craze. Everyone's talking about AI. Let's play with AI a little bit to see what we can do. And I don't think they were expecting it to be as controversial as it is. Now, it does kind of become controversial when you have the Writers Guild on strike right now, some of which is concerns over AI
fighting
involvement
AI
and things like that. And the Directors Guild being potentially involved in some of that stuff. Maybe I have my Marvel blinders on, but for me, it kind of came more off of, hey, everyone's talking about AI. Let's do something cool with AI, was the thought they were going to do. And it's cool they tried, but it really isn't good. Like, I watched the opening. I've seen the screen caps and stuff on Twitter because people were talking about it, so I watched it to be like, what's going on? And I went, this is just weird. It's not good. It's not bad. It's just there.
Well, and you have, like, I think it's been like the showrunner and the company that did the art for Secret Invasion, the guys that did the production team, basically saying, oh, well, what we had was like the idea of an, invasion. And so we have scrolls like, taking over and ruining, people's lives and attacking the world. It's like, wouldn't it be hilarious if, AI created the beginning of the show, like a scroll did it? And I can see that argument, but I'm also thinking it feels a lot like the James Gunn argument of The Flash being the greatest movie ever, because he kind of has to say that right now, though some people, having seen that movie, are saying, well, maybe you toted it a little bit more than it should have been toted, because, well, the best, apparently, some of the reviews I've heard is the best action sequence in that movie happens within the first 10 minutes, and then it goes down from there.
That movie also has its own concerns with AI and rights of artists over time too. For instance, for those, all right, here's a spoiler for Flash. I don't think anyone's going to give a shit. But at the end, there's all sorts of stuff with the multiverse going on, and one of the Flashes you see is Jay Garrick as the Flash, and he looks just like Teddy Sears did when he was pretending to be Jay Garrick in the Flash TV show. And they interviewed, and he's like, people are talking to me like, hey, congrats on being in the movie. He goes, I didn't film anything for that movie. He goes, that's not me. So either it's a lookalike or it's AI. And this is also a movie where, you know,
or they just took footage that they own from the CW show.
Which they could in theory do. I don't know how the residual rights work for the actors in that. But there's other stuff in there that kind of makes you go, yeah, we're at that tipping point now where you get that uncomfortable moment of Christopher Reeve's been dead for how long? Do you think Christopher Reeve would be okay with his image being used in a movie? George Reeves, do you think he'd be okay with that? I'm not as concerned about using AI to put Nick Cage in there as Nick Cage Superman if he signs off on it. But if Chris Reeve didn't sign off on it, or his family didn't because he's been dead for 50 years.
That's the other question. Like, is the Chris Reeve Foundation, were they notified? The people that possibly have the rights to his likeness? Was the family notified?
I guess the question is, I don't know what the rules are for that, though. Did he sign away his likenesses when he signed his Superman contract in 1977 or 6 when he would have signed it? I have no idea.
Which is definitely possible. For those that don't know, like, it used to be if you were an artist writer for Marvel, to get your paycheck, the back of your paycheck said that if you sign this, anything you made for us, we own. So who knows what Christopher Reeve's contract looked like for the 78 Superman. He might have, DC might own all of that.
We're getting to that uncomfortable spot of, in theory, you can bring dead actors back and put them on screen. And we've seen it in the Star Wars movies, for instance. Like Peter Cushing was brought back in Rogue One, and Carrie Fisher for Rogue One also. Now, caveat to all of that, the families both signed off on the fact that could happen. So it was something that Disney said, or Lucasfilm or whoever said, hey, we want to do this. Are you okay with it? And they probably didn't have the rights. I don't know how it worked. But the difference is we know there was family approval there. We're getting to a point where you may not necessarily own your likeness as the character you portray, meaning they could put you in there forever. And we've seen the other side of it where, for instance, James Earl Jones, I was thinking 3-word names there. And James Earl Jones signed over to Disney, said, signed on the dotted line, you have my permission, and he's getting paid for it. You can use AI and my voice to continue doing Darth Vader from this point forward. So like he signed off on it and basically sold the fact that you can use my voice to keep working this character, to keep having things go on with them. So there's cool things like that where you could potentially have residuals for your family going on forever. Because let's be honest, do we expect Disney/Lucasfilm to ever stop making things that have Darth Vader in it? No.
And now we also, the upside of that fan wise is Darth Vader will always sound like Darth Vader. There's no recasting.
And more
there's no anybody doing an impression of James Earl Jones. It will be James Earl Jones's voice as Darth Vader.
And more importantly, he and his family got compensated properly for it. That's where we're getting in. And this is some of the stuff we've seen come up in the Writers Guild and the Directors Guild, concerns over AI's involvement in things. And the writers have a bit of a different stance, which is, hey, how much people are going to try and farm off to AI to do when it may or may not make sense. Whereas the actors would have similar concerns over what we just talked about of, okay, I was in this movie 20 years ago. It was a piece of shit, but all of a sudden it became this B-movie classic everyone loved, and now we're going to make a spin-off movie for it. And I don't want to be in it. But they are now digitally putting me in there and digitally redoing my voice based off things I recorded for that without my permission. And this is me taking it to an extreme, of course. But the extremes is what you have to look at.
Yeah. In the Black Mirror episode, Joan is Awful. We got that. Like, have you seen that yet? Where you literally have an actress, her life becomes a Netflix show on Streamberry, which is hilarious because it's literally Black Mirror attacking Netflix, and it's on Netflix. It's so well done, and it's such a cool idea because, like, as her life is happening, it's becoming episodes on Streamberry that evening. And then so the actress from Schitt's Creek is playing the character Joan, and then she's saying she's watching Salma Hayek play her on a show called Joan is Awful on Streamberry. And then inside that show on Streamberry, the character of Salma Hayek is seeing the actress Kate Blanchett play the character of Joan is Awful. Like, it's literally the snake eating its own tail. And so because she doesn't want her life to be on this, she wants to stop the show. Like, you see the character in the episode eat a ton of cheeseburgers, drink a bunch of laxative, and then run into a church during a wedding and shit on the floor in a cheerleader outfit. Because she's assuming that Salma Hayek, the actress, won't do this. But Salma Hayek finds out from her lawyer she didn't sign off to even be in the show. She just sold him her likeness.
Mm-hmm.
And so the likeness of her character, of herself as an actress, does these actions on the show. She's like, fuck no, I wouldn't sign off on this.
Right.
And it's like, well, if you signed off in your digital likeness, can they make you do whatever you want? Can James Earl Jones as Darth Vader tell somebody to go fuck themselves now? And can he be mad about it if he signed off on that voice, doing whatever Disney wants that character to do throughout perpetuity? It's like, well, no, you're getting paid and you signed off. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
so
who
that's
knows?
one of those things too. We don't know what the contracts look like, even if they do sign off on this stuff. What is allowed with it in the future? What's allowed while he's alive versus what's allowed once James Earl Jones passes, and his family has to sign off on it.
Like, these effects and these capabilities are really cool, but these effects and these capabilities could also get misused very easily, and there's a slippery slope for it. And let me step back to the Flash for a second. I wasn't trying to cast aspersions upon them. I assume they went through all of the loopholes and the jumps they had to do to include those folks in there. It was more of a what if kind of thing. Although Teddy Sears being like, I had no idea I was in the movie and I didn't film anything for it.
Yeah,
you would think there'd at least
to me that's weird.
Hey, we're going to use your footage out of the Flash and we're going to put it in this movie.
Yep. How was he not notified that he's going to be in a blockbuster major motion picture as an actor that was a Flash character on a TV show?
Or maybe it's just someone that really looked like him. I don't know.
Yeah. And they just try to make it look like Teddy Sears. So we would assume it was him.
But the interesting thing is he was not actually Jay Garrick. That's the thing. Like, he looked cool as pretending to be Jay Garrick, but he wasn't actually Jay.
Well, it was.
He was Hunter Zolomon, I believe.
Yeah, because he was Zolomon pretending to be Jay Garrick from an alternate world. Yeah, which was that one made that one really confusing when you found out he wasn't who he said he was the whole time. It's like, wait, what the fuck's going on here?
Yeah. So that was just an example of things there, and we're getting into weird places on things, and I mean,
world's full of scrolls. It's all deep fakes,
right? I mean, we could continue the what ifs of what if they decided instead of recasting Thunderbolt Ross as Harrison Ford, they decided to do deep fake William Hurt. If the family's okay with it, I guess it's okay. But
it's a strange world we live in.
Yeah, there's stuff that needs to get figured out as we go. Like, the tech and the ability to do it is fascinating. The question then becomes, just because we can, should we?
Exactly. Yeah. Dr. Ian Malcolm has to take a look at all of these contracts. Well, it's like we saw it with Scarlett Johansson. What was written in her contract for Black Widow was not what Disney did. And so, like, we know that there's these actors' contracts, these, Marvel characters, these long-living Star Wars characters. These contracts now, like, we already know they were probably hundreds of pages. They might be thousands of pages now going forward.
Lawyer.
Yeah, because they have to. These managers and agents and stuff have to try to account for anything that could happen in the future of a character. And that's like the what ifs on that back in the 70s were a lot smaller than the what ifs on that today. Because we're seeing stuff, like you said, like James Earl Jones giving over his voice as Darth Vader for, as far as we know, the rest of time. Like, Star Wars can do the voice of Darth Vader as James Earl Jones. Like, that's kind of crazy. And we know now with the way they do computer algorithms and sound bites and stuff, they have enough audio of him that they can make Darth Vader say anything. There's really no limit to it. That's kind of scary. The voice of CNN is going to be out there forever.
Well, I mean, let's look at it from a more personal standpoint of you can train these models based off of hours of footage, and these folks that do movies and things like that, there's going to be hours of footage. Let's talk a more innocuous thing. We've done 500 plus episodes of this show. That means there's hundreds, if not thousands of hours between all the different podcasts we've done of our voices. And one of the things I've always kind of gone of, man, if someone really wanted to screw me, you could train an AI model because I've basically put a free sampling of my voice doing all sorts of things out there to make me say whatever you want. And that's going to be the next frontier that really scares me, is that say person X on the internet really doesn't like me. they decide to train an AI thing based off my voice and then put out some deepfake video of me saying something horribly terrible. I won't get into any examples. I don't want to encourage people to do it, but something terrible that would lead to consequences in consequence culture for doing something bad. I'm not going to call it cancel culture because there are consequences to people's actions. And if I were to have said what has actually was in that deep fake, I should legitimately have consequences to it. But you get to the point of, well, I never said that. How the hell am I going to prove this?
Well, and that's the other thing too, is like what the Writers Guild is fighting with AI is that I don't think a lot of people understand. It's like, oh, I just go on Chat GPT and I ask it to do something and it does it. Well, no, because the algorithm doesn't create anything. It's an amalgamation of what's been fed into it. And so you feed AI the scripts for 100 TV shows of Law and Order, and then you tell it to spit out 10 episodes of a TV show. We have a word for that. It's called plagiarism. Because the computer itself is not creating anything. It's basically rehashing stuff. Where as a writer, they have in their head all the shows they've ever watched, and then they create a show. They can reference stuff knowingly because they know what they've seen. But there's a weird thing where it's like, okay, well, there's an homage to something in a new TV movie or a new comic book movie where they, reference something that happened before. We have all the nostalgia stuff in the Star Wars, but those writers are having to come up with new ideas, and then you throw a little, an homage in there. You throw a little reference back to an old show, where all the AI programs really do now is just regurgitate what's been fed into them, but no one's getting credit for what's been fed into them. That seems to be a large part of the problem. Is you can feed anything you want to an AI program and tell it to spit you out something.
Sure.
But nobody gets paid for what gets fed into the programs to begin with.
So we've seen some examples of it, and this is innocuous. That was some stuff that was done during like COVID pandemic and stuff like that. Is they did AI generated scripts for Stargate, and they did table reads with the cast of Stargate SG-1 and stuff like that.
Just to see what like the program would spit out.
And it was done as like a fundraiser and stuff, I think, too. They got a bunch of those folks in there. And it was all like AI-based stuff that put those together. So there are potentials there. But yeah, if you're a writer, you're right to be wary of that because it can do a good chunk of what a writer should be doing. And then someone just needs to polish it, presumably. Who knows?
Yeah, which is what the Writers Guild is afraid of. It's like, oh, we have the AI just write out 10 seasons of a show, and then we hire one writer to polish the scripts instead of hiring 10 writers in a writer's room to create the scripts and polish them. Oh, hey, it's 1/10 the cost, right?
Yep.
Because we just pay somebody $50 to do it with an AI program. Not cool. Not cool.
I mean, I'll be honest. I think I talked about it on this show. There was one show where I purposely put my news through one of the AI tools to basically read what the AI summarized it as, just because it was a curious example of how to do things. There's interesting things that can go on with it. I don't know. We've kind of gone way off the beaten path here, and looking at the time, we do need to start shutting things down. But before we do that, we have one final segment in the show. It's a bit called What I'm Into. It's when we share with you guys what kind of geeky and nerdy content we've been consuming, because, hey, you may want to go check it out yourself. And I'll go first because the list is pretty short. I watch way too much stuff on YouTube. I took a break from Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, and I started playing Star Wars Jedi Survivor, and I beat Jedi Survivor this weekend, and it is so good. Like, everything that you liked in Fallen Order, they made better. It works better. You've got the ability to fast travel across the map now, so you don't have to be like, how the hell do I get back to this corner of the map? It's, oh no, I'll just fast travel to this meditation point and then go there. There's all sorts of side quests that you can go and do now. Like, you're on this planet called Kobo, and there's a cantina there. And one of your side quests is basically to fill up the cantina with people you meet. So at one point in time, I rescued a droid that was trapped, and it was hanging out at the cantina. And another time, I rescued a hunter that was trapped somewhere. And then I went back to the cantina. The hunter was there and was telling me about other side quests I could do on the world. It was really cool. There's bounty hunters hunting me. So I go and pick up missions to go and find the bounty hunters and kill them and take the bounty hunter pucks back and get paid for it. There's all sorts of cool little side stories into the main story of the game now, and they've refined everything. And I think the thing I like the most is when you start the game, you have pretty much all the powers you had in Jedi Survivor, in Fallen Order rather. You get more powers as it goes on, and you get more lightsaber forms. You have 5 different lightsaber forms now that you can choose.
As it should be.
You can only choose 2 that you can have equipped at a time, but you have 5 different forms you can use. So there's the single blade, the double blade, holding 2 lightsabers. You get Kylo Ren's crossguard saber, basically, and you get a lightsaber and a blaster. So basically you have a blaster in one hand and you can shoot things while you're cutting. Those are your 5 forms. I didn't mess with the blaster version very much.
Nice.
But I used the crossguard version a little bit because it was slow, but it could block real easily. So it's really fun. The story is good. The game is fun. Respawn just knocked it out of the park, and it's pretty much set up for a third one. And I don't know what they're going to do because there's stuff in the game that you're like, well, I know this didn't exist by the time A New Hope happened. How the hell are you going to undo all this stuff? But I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a great play, and it's a great game. If you enjoyed the first one, buy this one. It's that game even better.
Yeah, we have to get it at some point because I really enjoyed the hell out of the first one. Cal Kestis is a fun character.
Yep, and we get more of the whole
I love
gang.
me some BD1.
Yep.
BD1 is awesome.
BD1's back. There's a ton of customization for BD1 now too. Aside from just changing colors, you can change you can get different kind of legs and faces and stuff like that equipped for him.
Nice.
That's the other thing they did that everyone was clamoring for, I guess, is now instead of just a couple basic outfits, there's all sorts of different clothes that you can find in game, different dyes you can apply to it, different hairstyles for Cal Kestis. So you can give your Cal a mullet and a biker mustache if you want.
It's not just the poncho system anymore.
That's not just the poncho system. So I've actually found the biker mustache. I haven't found the mullet yet, but you could do a biker mustache and mullet as Cal Kestis.
I mean, I don't want to, but yes, please.
I mean, it's so easy to fix though, because you literally just pause it and go to the customize, and you can change all of the person-based customizations on the fly. Stuff for BD1 and your lightsaber you have to do at a work table, but other than that, and you can customize your blaster when you get it too. But since I didn't use the blaster, I didn't really customize it.
All right.
Yeah, really good game. Really enjoyed it. I guess I'm back to Zelda Tears of the Kingdom now that I've beat Jedi Survivor. Although there's still some stuff I haven't unlocked side quest wise, so I'm probably going to go and do that. And one other thing. Oh, I didn't play it on story mode, but I didn't play it on hard. And there was one character that killed me for 45 straight minutes before I could get past it. And it was very frustrating, but it felt very rewarding when it was all said and done for me to get out.
Once you actually killed him. All right.
I didn't kill them, but the fight ended.
I got away. Yeah. I escaped.
It's a really good game. I really recommend it. And if you've been paying attention to other Star Wars content, specifically Obi-Wan Kenobi, they mentioned the path and things like that. There are direct things that connect into the path for how they're getting Jedi out in this game. So you get some real cool connections into stuff that was presented to us in Obi-Wan Kenobi.
That's cool.
So, and these games are canon, so they fold in storyline wise. So I'm really curious to see where they go with it. And the thing that I'm kind of also wondering about is Cal Kestis basically looks exactly like Cameron Monaghan, who plays the character, does the mocap, does the voice work, things like that. I wonder if they're kind of setting us up at some point in time for Cal Kestis to show up in one of the live action Star Wars projects.
At this point, if he doesn't, I would be shocked. I'm assuming we're going to see him in an Ahsoka cameo.
That would imply that he is still alive, though. That's the thing, is Jedi Survivor takes place before A New Hope.
Yeah.
So I don't know what they're going to show us, because it could ruin things they want to do with the game. Because for all we know, they could want to end the series definitively, but like, hey, Cal did a bunch of good stuff, but Darth Vader stabbed him as he was trying to escape one last time, and that was it for Cal. I don't think they would go that dark, but who knows?
Well, that's all. Just because we see him in Ahsoka doesn't mean we see him alive. We could see him as a Force ghost.
That's true.
There you go. There you go. Anybody can be a Force ghost, man. Dave Filoni loves himself a Force ghost.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to see if they could bring him into things. And the way this game is set up, they sort of have written a way where you could have him disappear for all of the movies and then show up again if he so chose to. So they've written it into a way.
It is a big galaxy.
Yes.
Unless you're dealing with Skywalkers and Palpatines. Other than that, it's a big galaxy.
That's true. Like I mentioned also, Star Trek Strange New Worlds started up. The first episode of the season 2 was last week. The second episode is tonight. I'll be watching that because I absolutely adore Strange New Worlds. Last week's episode was very Spock-centric, which was fun.
As yeah, having finished Picard, I haven't gotten to Strange New Worlds yet because I was also getting ready to cancel Paramount Plus, so that will be the show when I go back.
Yeah.
It's like I'll be binging a couple of seasons of that.
I'll say something blasphemous here. Anson Mount's Chris Pike might be my favorite Star Trek captain now.
Oh shit!
He is that good as Chris Pike.
Damn. It's funny too because I love Anson Mount. And I just feel so bad for him with what happened in the Inhuman show because he's such a great actor. He did not deserve what happened that show.
He gets to kill it in Strange New Worlds, and if you've been interested in watching it, he was in one season of Star Trek Discovery, but they pretty much in the first few episodes of Strange New Worlds explained everything that he was doing in Discovery that you need to know for Strange New Worlds to make sense.
Okay.
So you don't have to have watched. I haven't watched Discovery, and I didn't have any problem jumping in with Strange New Worlds because they basically explain something that happens in the very first episode that was in Star Trek Discovery that kind of is important to the character, and you go, "Oh, okay, cool, thanks."
He's the guy that led the original Enterprise pre-Kirk, right? That's who Pike is.
He was captain before Kirk.
Yeah, so he's the first captain of the Starship Enterprise, right?
Robert April was the first captain, I believe.
April. Okay, so there's one before Pike, and then Pike is the pre-Kirk captain.
But,
okay.
I can't remember how long April commanded the Enterprise for, because this got into some weird stuff with the original pilot and stuff like that, where they then made the pilot of the Cage canon by folding it in an episode of the original series. It makes my brain hurt. If you've watched Star Trek, the original series, you know Chris Pike's final fate. So I guess that's one thing is, since it's a prequel, you already know, well, I know Spock's going to survive. I know Chris Pike's going to survive. I know this character's going to survive. So there's a little less drama because there's guaranteed people surviving, but that's fine.
But then again, you get all timey-wimey with the Star Trek Beyond. Do we know which timeline this Pike is living in?
This is the original timeline because it takes place before the Kelvin timeline branched off.
Okay. So it's all, because they call it Kelvin, so it's all pre-Kelvin.
Yeah. It's all, well, parts of it reference to stuff before that, but it takes place. It takes place in our original timeline, not the Kelvin verse, is what it comes down to.
Okay.
Because it ties directly into the original series TV show, which did not exist in the Kelvin verse.
Okay, so none of this has any reference to the J.J. Abrams.
None of this has any reference to the J.J. Abrams stuff. In fact, they reference Enterprise a few different times and stuff like that too, which is kind of cool. And then I guess Star Trek Discovery's made references back to Strange New Worlds and even Star Trek Picard, I guess, in its most recent seasons. I guess Discovery references the fact that Picard's an android, for instance.
Which is so weird.
It's so weird. So weird. But that's what I've been getting into. I can't think of anything else. I'm going to toss things over to you. What you been getting into, sir? Mr. Bachman, you're up.
Let's see here. I did finally get a hold of an episode or issue that we had talked about and finally read Amazing Spider-Man number 26. It was very strange that Kamala Khan dies in a book that doesn't have her name on the cover. But I will also say it's a really well-written issue. Like
she appeared in for 16 panels, I think someone figured out. It's a very small amount, but the fact that she goes out like a boss and basically fools a god-level villain. So I'll just leave it at that. Let's also be honest. Does anyone expect her to stay dead past the movie premiering? It's
comics, and she's made out of rubber in the comics. So, Kamala Khan, there's still a way to get her back. So,
exactly.
Other than that, I did pick up. We got the Dead by Daylight comic came out. I have just the sketch cover for myself. It's okay. It's not great. They decided to do the story of Legion, which is actually the story of 4 people that become like serial killers in the world of the Entity and Dead by Daylight. It's not like a grand slam home run by Titan Comics, but it's also not awful. I've definitely read worse comics. It's okay. The DVD today just finally released they ended up doing their anniversary, what we're going to do down the road, 3 weeks prior to their anniversary event. Then the anniversary event was supposed to start yesterday, and they fucked something up, whatever. It actually started today. I have loaded up both of our PlayStations and looked at the stuff. It does look pretty cool. There's some good graphics going on, but there's it's just, it looks like the regular anniversary event, something super spectacular. They did make it to where they finally put up a window to where you can see all the anniversary event items that you can earn, which before they've given you 3 previews, but then You go and do a match, you earn something, it pops up for a second and goes away, and then you have to go through the 20 some odd survivors or killers to figure out whose mask you earned, which was kind of annoying. They now have a grid that shows all the previous ones and the new ones that are available and whether or not you own them. So that's an awesome update. Yeah, other DVD updates to be mentioned are just all bad news, so I'll skip those. Got some yard work done today, which just getting messages from my wife because she's happy because I trimmed like the bottom 5 feet of our pine tree. And she's like, finally, that damn mess is gone. And then I got to do a little bit of painting this week. So my Liberator, which I can never get the camera to focus on. Come on, you bastard. He's looking pretty good. He's almost done. So it's my first group painting. I did 5 Stormcast Eternal Liberators. I got some more. I got one of those like head jeweler things coming. I'm having trouble now with my just my ×1 magnifying glasses that I've got. I'm having a little trouble seeing like details, the really small details on these guys. So it's time to upgrade the magnification. I paid $5,000 so I can see distance now, and now I can no longer see up close great, which kind of sucks, but I don't have to wear glasses all the time. So, positive with the negative. Getting almost done with Longmire. I watched the first episode of a Korean boxing show called Bloodhounds, which was kind of interesting. I'm not sure if I'll watch more of it, but the pilot was interesting. It's about a kid that's like a boxing champion, and then his mom's shop and a bunch of neighborhood shops are being basically fleeced by neighborhood thugs, and he ends up fighting back against them in the first episode. The fighting sequences were pretty cool, pretty good for a show that's just based on boxing. Interesting, very cool. There's this random Korean shows have been some of my favorite stuff that's on Netflix lately. Like, there's some great Korean TV out there. If you haven't gone through and looked, there's a ton of it on Netflix. And so it's cool because I'm getting to watch shows, from other countries, which is one of the things I like about Netflix. There's shows that are super popular in Spain or Brazil or Korea, and then they show up on my Netflix queue, and found some cool television. There's The Extraordinary Attorney Woo was a Korean TV show about an attorney with autism. Like the most heartfelt show I've seen on TV in 20 years. And like, it's all, translated into English, but like really cool show. I did see one pop up, happy birthday to the one and only Chin himself. Apparently it's Bruce Campbell's birthday.
That is true.
So,
I saw that too.
Yeah. So the King of the Evil Dead is out there, hopefully, rocking through another day. Then other than that, because I watched a bunch of shows, finishing off Peacock and Paramount Plus to cancel both of those. And then we are canceling our Max subscription. So I was like, okay, I have till the end of the month. They put a bunch of AMC stuff on there. So I'm going through some classic movies. Like, I actually sat and watched, like, credit to credit, Casablanca for the first time.
Nice.
Great fucking movie. Yesterday, I watched The Maltese Falcon. So I'm getting all my Humphrey Bogarts checked off the list. And then I was going through, it's like, why are all these classic movies 3 or 4 hours long? Like Lawrence of Arabia, The Great Escape. They have Akira Kurosawa's Seven Samurai on there. I watched about an hour of that this morning. All awesome films, but damn, they're so long. And I watched, I think about an hour and a half of The Great Escape last night before I went to bed. And like seeing young Steve McQueen, weirdly young Richard Attenborough, weirdly young Donald Pleasance. At like the peak of his physicalness, freaking Charles Bronson. Like, it's awesome seeing these old actors, in a World War II Nazi prison camp movie. But yeah, just some great old films. And like I said, just checking ones off the list that I maybe caught like half of on TNT as a kid with commercials, but never actually sat and watched. And like I've never actually sat and just watched Akira Kurosawa's Seven Samurai. I've seen all the Magnificent Seven remakes 19 times. It's like, no, we need to watch the old school original one. And so I've been, enjoying those and just getting through some classic movies and adding them to my flick chart. But yeah, the amount of AMC films they dropped, like I watched The Verdict. I watched, The Maltese Falcon, Casablanca. I've done like 10 just classic films, and I've actually gone onto my flick chart and just gone, okay, what are the most classic movies I haven't seen yet? And like Seven Samurai was one that was near the top of the list. It's like, okay, that's on Max. I need to watch that before that subscription's over. And then I also found, I think on the 26th, they're putting Evil Dead Rises on Max, so I get to watch that before our subscription's over. Yes.
Nice. I love
Which-
it when a plan comes together.
Yeah, and it's like the first good movie they've dropped on Max in a while. Like that was one of the things that when it first started, HBO Max was like, hey, we're doing like a big movie premiere like every month. It's like, okay, we got Mortal Kombat, but it was on there. You had,
Right.
Godzilla. You had Godzilla King of the Monsters. You had frickin' the new Matrix. And like they haven't really done like a big movie in forever, except like 2 weeks ago they did Avatar Way of Water, which weirdly dropped on Max and Disney Plus.
I wonder if it was some pre-existing deal that Fox
Yeah.
had made before the acquisition.
Something, right? Because it's like, well, yeah, Disney owns 20th Century Fox and Lucasfilm and all that. It's like they have Avatar ones on Disney Plus. How is that going on Max? But it's one of those weird ones where you get 2 different emails from 2 different streamers saying, hey, look, our new movie's coming out. It's like you're both premiering the same movie. Okay, weird. But yeah, I'm very much looking forward to Evil Dead Rise because I've heard nothing but good stuff about it on all the horror podcasts I listen to, and it just looks super creepy. And apparently, it's the one that has the cheese grater scene in it.
Oh no.
So you knew someone was eventually going to do it, and apparently the guy that was writing this like had that idea. Like I think he said during quarantine era, he was talking to I think it was Mick Garrick. I was listening to the Mick Garrick's podcast, the guy that directed like a lot of the Stephen King movies back in the day. And yeah, they were talking about the cheese graters. And I'm like, oh no, someone finally did a cheese grater. Okay, I have to watch it. I don't want to watch it, but I have to watch it. So yeah, very much looking forward to Evil Dead Rise. But yeah, that's about all I've been getting into. Yeah, I've finished up Miles again, and so I haven't dove into another video game yet. But yeah, I'll have to pick another one soon. Still working on Uncharted 2. I haven't finished the second one because yeah, I think I told Willie 2 weeks ago I was going through that tank blasting scene, and it was so bad that my PlayStation just turned off. It's like, nope, not dealing with this scene.
That's not good.
Oh, well. It was very strange. Yep, that's what I've been into. And then the rest of today will be, DBD, and then I think we're going out to celebrate my buddy's birthday this afternoon.
Oh, that'll be fun.
Yeah. And delivering some very late Christmas presents to some kids. Because
Nothing wrong with that either.
we never saw him between the wedding and everything else going on. We never actually went over to my buddy's house after Christmas, and so I have Christmas presents for his kids.
Shit happens. It's only June.
Yeah, I'm a shitty uncle.
There's a lot going on. There's a lot going on.
It's true. It's been a busy half a year.
But on that note, friends, we are going to start shutting things down. A friendly reminder before we shut things down, we stream this show once every week or 2 weeks. It depends. Stay tuned to social media. We try and post when we're going to be going live on there. Scheduling's hard. We're all adults with a lot of shit going on at times, so it makes things difficult. And
Indeed.
we apologize for that, and hopefully we'll get to more regular here in a bit. It's just, it's partly my fault. I've been getting busy with stuff that's not made it conducive to podcasting, so I apologize. But if you're missing us on one of the weeks we can't podcast, I've got good news for you. There's a lot of other shows with friends of ours you can go check out at GonnaGeek.com. That's where the Gonna Geek Network is. There's a variety of different podcasts on the network that cover all sorts of different topics, from podcasting tips, specific cool television shows, geek culture, sci-fi culture, you name it, we've probably got it. I really encourage you, head on over to GonnaGeek.com, check out the network, and that will happily fill any gaps you may have where you're missing us because our schedule doesn't accommodate podcasting as much as we would like. But on that note...
But yeah, I was going to say, I'll give a shout out to Capes on the Couch because they did a Miguel O'Hara episode in line with Spider-Verse. Just listened to it yesterday. I was driving around doing chores. Great fucking episode. Miguel has some problems.
Those guys are great. That's a great show, Capes on the Couch.
Yeah.
You guys should go check that out. But that being said, we are going to shut things down. We'll be back next week, probably at 2 p.m. Eastern, over at www.geeks.live or nerds.live. You can use either one you want. Before we shut things down, you got any final thoughts for the people?
Negative. I'm a meat popsicle.
Meat popsicle, indeed. So on that note, we are going to start shutting things down. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. And like I said, go check out the network. There's a ton of other cool stuff there that you can go and enjoy. And we're getting out. Bye, guys. Thanks for listening to this brand new episode of the All Things Good and Nerdy podcast. Don't forget, we'll be back next Sunday live at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central over at live.atgnpodcast.com, channel 3 of the Alpha Geek Radio app, and over at our network home at GonnaGeek.com/live. If you have any feedback for the show, please contact us atgnpodcast@gonnageek.com, on our hotline number at 304-806-ATGN, or even better, go to Twitter and send us a message at ATGN Podcast. The music you've heard in this show is produced by Kevin MacLeod and can be found at incompetech.com.